From whisper to roar, the revolutionary power of self-advocacy. Welcome to the Black CEO Podcast, where we're about to embark on a journey that will challenge everything you thought you knew about personal power and success. Today, we're diving deep into the transformative world of self-advocacy, inspired by the groundbreaking insights of Alex Dumas, a visionary leader who's revolutionizing the way we think about speaking up and standing out. Alex isn't just another motivational speaker or life coach. He's a force of nature, a catalyst for change who's dedicated his life to empowering the voiceless and igniting the spark of self-advocacy in everyone he meets. His work has touched countless lives, turning whispers into roars and transforming silent struggles into triumphant victories. So buckle up, because the wisdom we're about to unpack has the power to change your life in ways you never imagined possible. Now, let me ask you a question that might make you squirm in your seat a little. When was the last time you truly, unequivocally stood up for yourself? I'm not talking about complaining about cold coffee or grumbling about traffic. I'm talking about advocating for your deepest needs, your most audacious dreams, your fundamental rights as a human being. If you're drawing a blank, don't worry. You're not alone. But by the end of this talk, I promise you'll be itching to raise your voice and claim your space in this world. Let's start with a hard truth. The world isn't going to hand you what you deserve on a silver platter. It's not going to recognize your brilliance, your potential, or your worth unless you make it impossible to ignore. And that, my friends, is where self-advocacy comes in. Self-advocacy isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. It's the ability to speak up for yourself, to articulate your needs, to demand respect and fair treatment. It's the courage to say no when everyone expects you to say yes, and the audacity to say yes when the world tells you it's impossible. But here's the kicker. Self-advocacy isn't just about getting what you want. It's about owning who you are, unapologetically and without compromise. It's about recognizing that your voice matters, that your experiences are valid, that your dreams are worth pursuing. And when you start living that truth, let me tell you, it changes everything. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, that's all well and good, but I'm not comfortable speaking up. I don't want to rock the boat. And I get it, I really do. Speaking up can be terrifying. It can feel like you're stepping off a cliff and not knowing if you'll fly or fall. But let me ask you this. What's the alternative? Staying silent when you have something important to say? Letting opportunities pass you by because you're afraid to reach out and grab them? Living a life dictated by other people's expectations and limitations? I don't know about you, but that sounds a whole lot scarier to me than the momentary discomfort of speaking up. Let me introduce you to Kimberly. Kimberly was a special education teacher and registered behavior technician, impressive titles that masked a painful reality. You see, Kimberly was battling debilitating migraines that were slowly but surely eroding her ability to work. Now, how many of us would have just suffered in silence, pushing through the pain day after day, convincing ourselves that we had no choice? But Kimberly did something extraordinary. She advocated for herself. First, she transitioned to part-time work, but even that proved too much. So, in a move that took immense courage, Kimberly made the decision to resign from her job entirely. Now, I know what you're thinking. That doesn't sound like a victory. That sounds like giving up. But here's the plot twist. Kimberly described feeling an instant sense of relief, like a massive burden had been lifted from her shoulders. By advocating for herself, by prioritizing her health and well-being, Kimberly wasn't giving up. She was taking control. She was saying, my health matters. I matter. And that, my friends, is what self-advocacy looks like in action. But self-advocacy isn't just about making big life-altering decisions. Sometimes it's about finding the courage to speak up in the face of trauma and adversity. That brings us to James Meadows. James is a survivor of sexual assault and a person with intellectual disability. Now, can you imagine the courage it took for James to not only confront his trauma, but to become a vocal advocate for himself and others? James's journey began with seeking help from a mental health therapist. He learned to ask for help when he needed it, a crucial skill that many of us struggle with. But James didn't stop there. He became a leader in the self-advocacy movement, using his voice to help others who had experienced similar traumas. James's story teaches us something profound, that our vulnerabilities, the very things we often try to hide, can become our greatest strengths. By having the courage to share his story, James not only found healing for himself, but created a supportive community for others. That's the ripple effect of self advocacy. When you speak up for yourself, you give others permission to do the same. Now, I can almost hear some of you saying, that's great for them, but my situation is different. I don't have any dramatic stories to tell. Well, let me tell you about the young people with disabilities in Stark County. These individuals face challenges that many of us take for granted: finding employment, accessing necessary support services, simply being seen and heard in their communities. But they didn't let their disabilities define them. Instead, they learned to identify their needs, express themselves, and seek help when necessary. And you know what happened? They became more autonomous. They built stronger relationships. They achieved goals that once seemed out of reach. One young person found employment after years of struggling. Another accessed support services that dramatically improved their quality of life. Yet another became an active, engaged member of their community. These might not sound like earth-shattering achievements to some, but for these individuals, they were life-changing victories. And here's the kicker: all of these transformations began with self-advocacy, with the simple yet powerful act of speaking up for oneself. It's like throwing a pebble into a pond. The ripples keep spreading far beyond what you can see. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you advocated for yourself with the same passion and determination as Kimberly, James, and these young people. What dreams would you pursue? What boundaries would you set? What truths would you speak? I can see some of you squirming in your seats. Maybe you're thinking, that's all well and good, but I'm not comfortable speaking up. I don't want to rock the boat. And I get it. I really do. Speaking up can be scary. It can feel risky. Let me ask you this. What's the alternative? Staying silent when you have something important to say? Letting opportunities pass you by because you're afraid to reach out and grab them? Living a life dictated by other people's expectations and limitations? I don't know about you, but that sounds a whole lot scarier to me than the momentary discomfort of speaking up. Because here's the truth, and it's a truth that Alex Dumas understands deeply. Self-advocacy isn't just about getting what you want. It's about owning your worth. It's about recognizing that your voice matters, that your needs are valid, that your dreams are worth pursuing. When you advocate for yourself, you're sending a powerful message, not just to others, but to yourself. You're saying, I matter. My thoughts, my feelings, my aspirations, they all matter. And let me tell you, once you start believing that, once you start living that truth, it changes everything. But here's the really beautiful part. When you start advocating for yourself, you open up opportunities to support others who may feel unseen and unheard. Your courage becomes contagious. Your voice becomes a beacon for others who are still finding their own. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This all sounds great, but how do I actually do it? How do I become an advocate for myself? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. First things first, start small. You don't have to storm into your boss's office tomorrow and demand a raise. Although if that's what you need to do, more power to you. Self-advocacy can start with something as simple as expressing your opinion in a meeting, even if it differs from the majority view. It can be setting a boundary with a friend or family member. It can be asking for help when you need it, instead of struggling alone. The key is to practice. Like any skill, self-advocacy gets easier with time and repetition. So start flexing that muscle. Speak up in low-stakes situations. Pay attention to how it feels. Celebrate your victories, no matter how small they might seem. And here's a crucial point. Be prepared for setbacks. Not everyone will respond positively to your newfound voice. Some people might push back. That's okay. Remember, you're not responsible for other people's reactions. You're only responsible for expressing your truth. Another important aspect of self-advocacy is knowing your worth. Take some time to reflect on your strengths, your achievements, your unique perspective. When you're clear on what you bring to the table, it becomes easier to speak up for yourself. Now, let's talk about vulnerability for a moment. Many of us shy away from self-advocacy because we're afraid of appearing weak or needy. But here's the truth. There's immense strength in vulnerability. When you're willing to be open about your needs, your struggles, your aspirations, you create space for genuine connection and growth. Remember James Meadows. His willingness to be vulnerable about his experiences not only led to his own healing, but also created a supportive community for others. That's the power of combining self advocacy with vulnerability. But self advocacy isn't just about words, it's about action. It's about taking concrete steps to create the life you want. Maybe that means applying for a job you think is out of your league. Maybe it means ending a relationship that no longer serves you. Maybe it means pursuing a passion you've always kept hidden. Whatever it is, remember this: you have the power to shape your life. You have the right to pursue your dreams, and you have the ability to overcome obstacles, just like Kimberly James and the young people in Stark County did. Now, I want to circle back to something Alex Dumas said that really stuck with me. He said that his experience advocating for himself opened up opportunities to support others who may feel unseen and unheard. And that's something I want you all to keep in mind as you embark on your own journey of self advocacy. When you speak up for yourself, when you stand in your truth, you're not just changing your own life, you're setting an example, you're showing others what's possible, you're creating a ripple effect that can transform communities, workplaces, even entire industries. Imagine a world where everyone felt empowered to speak up, to stand out, to advocate for themselves and others. Imagine the innovations we could create, the problems we could solve, the connections we could forge. That's the world Alex Dumas is working towards, and it's a world we can all help create, one act of self advocacy at a time. So, as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a challenge. This isn't just a feel good exercise, this is a call to action. This is your invitation to join a revolution of self advocacy that has the power to change not just your life, but the world around you. Here's your mission, should you choose to accept it. This week, I want you to find one opportunity to advocate for yourself. It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be earth shattering, but it does have to be genuine. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting at work when you've always stayed silent before. Maybe it's having that difficult conversation you've been putting off for months. Maybe it's simply taking some time for self care and not feeling guilty about it. Whatever it is, I want you to do it. And then I want you to pay attention to how it feels. Notice the energy it gives you. Notice how it shifts your perspective. Notice how it might inspire others around you. Because here's the thing: self advocacy isn't just a personal act, it's a revolutionary act. Every time you speak up for yourself, you're chipping away at the systems and structures that keep people silent and powerless. Remember, your voice matters, your needs matter, your dreams matter. And when you start believing that, really, truly believing it, you become unstoppable. You become a force for change, not just in your own life, but in the lives of those around you. So let's make a pact right here, right now. Let's commit to being our own best advocates. Let's commit to speaking up, to standing out, to owning our worth. Let's commit to creating a world where everyone's voice is heard and valued. Because when we do that, we don't just change our own lives, we change the world. We create a ripple effect of empowerment and change that can transform communities, industries, and even societies. As you leave here today, I want you to carry this truth with you. Your voice is your power. It's your ticket to the life you dream of. It's your tool for creating change. Don't keep it to yourself. Use it, amplify it, let it roar. And remember, every time you advocate for yourself, you're not just changing your own story, you're rewriting the narrative of what's possible for all of us. You're part of a revolution of self advocacy that has the power to reshape our world. So go forth and advocate, speak up, stand out, be heard, because the world needs your voice, your ideas, your dreams. And it's past time for you to claim your space and make your mark. Thank you. Thank